Now, the other day, we spoke about rapper Saweetie, who's been in the news a lot recently for some serious allegations. And since then, things have escalated to the point where she finally responded to the allegations. So the story was this. A woman who claimed to be her former road manager, her name was Maybach May, went viral after accusing Saweetie of basically moving like an escort. She even posted alleged screenshots of Saweetie asking how much she could run it up on Premier League football star Jadon Sancho, who Saweetie is currently dating, implying it wasn't romance, it was just business. And instantly, once those allegations hit the internet, the situation blew up because it feeds directly into a narrative people have quietly speculated about Saweetie for years, which is that she allegedly treats relationships more like business moves than anything romantic. Now, this was trending for hours and actually days, and it didn't slow down. It kept feeding the conversation online, especially because the accuser, Maybach May, claimed she was only exposing Saweetie because Saweetie, did the dash with her money. She ran with the money, right? And she didn't pay her for these services like she was claiming. And it even got crazier when she referred to Jadon Sancho, the Aston Villa player Saweetie is currently dating, as a client, which is obviously a serious accusation because that wording makes it sound like this was never personal, it was strictly transactional. Very escort-like. Now, up until this point, Saweetie had been completely silent, but after watching this spiral for days, she finally decided to respond to the allegations. She put up a statement on her Instagram and didn't deny it softly. She actually fired back with legal action. Her statement specifically said, and I quote, "The recent accusations made about me are false, defamatory, and deeply disturbing. These claims misrepresent the facts and are solely aimed to damage my reputation. This person never managed me. She was simply introduced to me by family. Her motives are now obvious. I'll let the lawyers take it from here." So basically, Saweetie was making it clear this wasn't some internet drama anymore. This is legal territory. And honestly, I think this was the right type of response for a few reasons. First of all, no matter what you or me personally think about Saweetie, she does have the right to defend herself because as far as we know, these are still just allegations. Nothing has been proven, and that's why I think it's important to cover both sides of this conversation. Someone came out and claimed she was involved in something wild. That's their side. But obviously the person making those claims has their own motives, especially if money is involved, which we know. And then you have Saweetie on the other end, who's not just pushing back against the escort allegations, but also against a whole list of other accusations, because it didn't stop there. Maybach May also accused her of doing cocaine, being involved in witchcraft, and even said that liquor is one hell of a mix. So when you have someone coming for you like this publicly, aggressively, and throwing around serious accusations, it's deeper than just drama on Saweetie's end. Her name is her vehicle for money, her brand, her image. That's how she gets deals, brand partnerships, sponsorships, appearances. So accusations like this hit directly at her earning power. Now, on the other side of things, even if any of this was true, let's be real, she's not going to come out and admit it. It wouldn't benefit her, obviously. So we're left in that gray area of her word versus the accuser's word. And honestly, I don't think this woman is going to say anything else after this. I mean, Saweetie, at the end of the day, she got resources, she got lawyers, a very powerful team. And if you look at situations like this historically, the bigger celebrity almost always tries to make an example out of the accuser to deter anyone else from trying something like this in the future, right? And then we have 25-year-old Jadon Sancho, who caught a, straight bullet in all this, or a couple actually, figuratively speaking. He just got dragged into a bunch of mess, a bunch of gossip, a scandal that has nothing to do with football. Now, speaking of Jadon, the accuser actually went after him as well. She posted another story accusing him of inhaling balloons, laughing gas, I assume, right? And even included an alleged conversation where he claimed he wasn't able to reach Saweetie after an argument back in March. Now, that's a whole other topic, obviously, and I'm not going to go down that path. Very irrelevant to what we're focusing on today. But the point is, I don't think more is coming out right now unless the accuser wants more smoke, which seems very unlikely. But regardless, this is going to shape the way people view Saweetie going forward. And it's one thing when people hear rumors through the grapevine. It's completely different when someone goes public with screenshots and calls your current man a client. And it actually reminds me of how her relationship with Quavo ended. For anyone who doesn't remember, a few months before they officially broke up, Quavo actually gifted Saweetie a custom Bentley as an early Christmas present. It was a whole moment, right? And Saweetie was ecstatic when she found out that Quavo was doing this. Like a lot of people know, they were in a very public relationship, always online, always watched and always posting about each other. But after things ended, reports surfaced that Quavo actually sent a repo man to take the Bentley back. For my international viewers, that basically means the car was reclaimed and taken away. According to earlier reports, Quavo had actually leased the car in his own name, and the deal included an option that allowed him to terminate the contract early after the breakup. Now, multiple outlets later claimed that wasn't true, and that the car was never repossessed actually. But then Quavo came out and confirmed it himself. This is what he said on a song with Drake. She had it her way, now she out of a Bentley. Skrrr. So whether it actually happened or not, the message was clear. Quavo implied that the relationship came with conditional benefits, money, status, maybe even tricking, depending on how you look at it. And that's the point, right? No woman wants this type of narrative attached to her name, especially when she's a public figure like Saweetie. Most of us can see what's going on though, we're not dumb. But these women don't want to be in a position where their entire value is publicly reduced to which man they're standing next to or how much pum they're willing to give up in exchange for some coins, okay? And they especially don't want to put the men they're with in a situation where it looks like they're being used, although they may not feel like they are, right? Because most of these very powerful, wealthy, and extremely influential men, they got a whole lot of money. So for them to kind of like blow it on a person or like a woman, right? It's not a big deal for them. And also the fact is a lot of these powerful dudes with money and resources are always going to be attracted to beautiful women. That's not new. And a lot of women who may not be as rich or successful are naturally going to want something in return: access, protection, opportunities, lifestyle, you name it. So yes, it's two grown adults making an exchange. And as long as it stays private and consensual, it really is nobody's business. But the second it reaches the public, Blacky gonna speak on it, right? But it becomes a topic of conversation for a hot minute, and then we all move on until it resurfaces once again. We do have to touch on the fact that more often than not, however, with situations like this, somebody ends up getting taken advantage of. And I'm specifically talking about prostitution, right? And I'm not even saying that's the case here, by the way. I just want to make it very clear. Obviously, these are allegations, right? I'm talking in general. Once money, power, and sexuality mix, that dynamic gets murky real quick. And the issue with normalizing this type of arrangement is that it sends the wrong signal to the world and other people, but especially young women watching. Like as an example, there's already a whole sugar daddy culture that's normalized in a lot of places around the world. I'm sure some of y'all have heard about that, but a sugar daddy is essentially where a man with money, usually an older gentleman, funds a woman's lifestyle, usually a younger woman. And in some cases, she may not even give up the the pussy. The guy's just happy to be in close proximity to an attractive woman who makes him feel like she cares, right? But let's be honest, in most cases, she does give it up just enough to keep that income stream flowing to her bank account. And yeah, it might be two grown adults making a decision, but that doesn't mean the situation is healthy or balanced. And what's even crazier is these days, I've been personally seeing older women, like a lot of older women, literally teaching younger women how to run this type of game online. Like there are entire communities and even businesses built around this. So essentially they teach a lot of young women how to target wealthy men, how to study them, how to emotionally manipulate them, and kind of create a situation where you're always coming out on top and you get the money, right? So the question then becomes are there any morals in teaching young women to weaponize their feelings, their bodies, and hustle people for cash? I don't think so. With that being said, I wouldn't look at a man as a victim in that situation, just like I wouldn't see Saweetie as a victim if, let's say, what she did with Jadon Sancho was purely transactional, right? If that was the case, I wouldn't look at her as the victim. And then I also wouldn't look at, let's say, a man who's kind of in this sugar daddy dynamic. I wouldn't look at none of these two cases like a victim, right? However, and this is important, my concern with this kind of normalization of this type of thing is, what does it really do to a lot of the younger women in the world watching? That's what worries me. Not the older women who already understand the risks, like a Saweetie who's a grown woman, obviously, but the ones who are impressionable and don't see the trap coming. Because there is a caveat to all this, okay? I'm talking about that 16 or 17-year-old girl who hears an older woman bragging about how she's running up a bag just by spending an hour or two with some 65-year-old man, and suddenly she thinks that's a viable option. So now in her world, that looks like an easier path than working, building skills, or actually betting on herself and getting it out the mud the proper way like the rest of us. And honestly, it probably is easier, but only for a very short time. She goes down that path and gets flown out to all these different places, surrounded by other women who are already in that lifestyle, hyping her up, and she might think that she's winning for a period of time until shit gets real, before she even realizes that she's no longer in control. What started as luxury and I got flown out vibes can very easily slide into full-on exploitation. And yes, in the worst cases, like we all know, that's how a lot of young girls end up in trafficking situations, okay? Or even worse, their faces end up on the news. I've heard plenty of stories like that. Because once you step into a world controlled by money and power, there's no guarantee you get to walk out on your own terms, okay? That's just a fact. At that point, it's not about what you want anymore. It's about what they decide. And that's when a lot of these young girls finally realize This was never about empowerment. Those older, washed up women lied to you. It was a trap. You thought it was a game of luxury, but really, it was about ownership, and you are now owned. And also, let's talk about the fact that a lot of the men who engage in this lifestyle aren't saints either. So from the start, you're placing yourself in the hands of people who don't care about your safety, your dignity, or your future. I don't personally want to live in a world where my future daughter thinks exchanging her body for coins is an option. It's not respectable. It's not something we should teach young people, period. Or should I say period? It's just always better to earn your own money or build with someone you genuinely love, stack together, grow together. That's healthy. That's the right way to do things, because there's a right way to do shit, right? And this shit right here that we're talking about, it's very dysfunctional. Stories like this are warnings. They show what society is on the verge of normalizing. And I think most people listening, I would hope, agree this ain't it. Now, as for Saweetie, we're going to see how this plays out. Maybe she'll address it through the music, which honestly is the smartest move she could make. Saweetie could be like, icy girl, I never busted down for money. Net worth 4 M's, gotta stack my hundreds. I don't know, some shit like that, right? Because in 2025, the worst thing you can do is crash out emotionally on social media. So just put it into the music, right? And good on the icy girl for not crashing out, right? Actually, salute her, man. Salute to a real bitch for keeping it player, okay? So this was definitely the smartest way to respond if you ask me, okay? But I'm curious what y'all think. Do y'all agree with how Saweetie handled this? Should she have responded like this or stayed completely silent? And on top of that, what are your thoughts on everything I spoke about regarding sugar daddy culture being normalized? Do you personally see it as two grown adults making a transaction, or do you think it's actually dangerous for, let's say, younger girls watching all this going down? Like, what are the pitfalls with that kind of stuff being normalized in society? I'm very curious to hear what you have to say. Let me know in the comment section below. I genuinely want to hear what you have to say. Drop a like before you leave, obviously. Appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next video, man. Peace. I'm out.